Debbie Georgatos is a Dallas-Fort Worth attorney. She's a political strategist. Her mission in life, she says, is to get more women to vote conservative, not just Republican, but conservative. She's got a book, a website, and a radio show that says they're all titled "Ladies, Can We Talk?" So we, without further ado, bring on Debbie Georgatos. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Bobby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how are things down there in Dallas?
Well, they're warmer than Pennsylvania. I heard your temperature is 39.
37. 37. Yeah.
Woo-hoo. Well, we have blue sky and sunny. So we're happy.
So talk to me about. First of all, I don't even know where to start. What got you going into conservative politics? Give me a little bit of your backstory.
Okay, we have moved a couple of times because of my husband's business, but we came to Texas in the year 2000, and I've always been a student of government. I majored in government in college or political science, and really love the root ideas of America's founding. They are unique in all the world, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. But fast forward to the year 2000, we moved to Texas, and I got involved in a Republican women's group. Just kind of, it's a very interesting group. They have good speakers, interesting subjects. But really, the thing that pushed me into writing this book, and then kind of launched everything I'm doing now, was kind of an epiphany moment I had. I did in the 2008 election recognize that it was very possible that Barack Obama, I knew he would be a very leftist candidate, but in the 2009 time frame, very quick story, I was driving home from having played in a league tennis match where I was pretty intensely playing tennis, and I turned on the radio coming home, and I heard Barack Obama speaking. I realized he actually means the fundamental transformation of America. He actually meant it, and his views are just very very left-wing, very off, inconsistent with America's founding ideas. I just decided, you know what, this is kind of a step up and do your part to save the republic. So the first thing I did is write a book speaking to women about what issues matter and why they should vote for more conservative answers to America's challenges.
So what? Give me some of those, because a lot of women think, oh, how could you not be for abortion? If you're a conservative woman, you're just misinformed. You're comparable to an Uncle Tom who's a black conservative. I don't even know what they would. There's got to be a name for ladies that are conservative. You're just misguided, misinformed. But I know you feel that the conservative values are actually more empowering to women. So, what do you say to women when you get into these conversations?
You know, I'm glad you mentioned conversations, because that's one of my pitches I say in all of my speeches and on my radio show is we have to have political conversation. We have become very polarized, and political correctness shuts down conversation, but we need to. So with respect to your specific question about abortion, I actually all through college and law school voted Democrat. And it was just, I grew up in New York, and it was kind of what the expected thing was. But really, with respect to the pro-life and pro-choice issues, I think that there was a time when the notion, what President Clinton said, it was going to safe, legal, and rare, and your heart as a young woman goes out to the woman who's dealing with an unwanted pregnancy, where you think, gee, the guy's just going to go scot-free, the father is going to march on with his life, and it's so unfair that women have this, they have to deal with it. But, over time, it is not just the sheer numbers of abortions that have happened since Roe versus Wade was issued, that decision was issued by the Supreme Court, but just the whole notion of what kind of society you're creating when there's so little valuation for life. I mean, just, we look at China and we're appalled by the one-child policy, forced abortions, but if you make yourself think it through, there's a valuing of life that has to come from the people who just say, we don't want to be in a society that is so dedicated to protecting, as though it's the highest thing for women, protecting their right to end a pregnancy. We need to embrace women dealing with an unwanted pregnancy of any age and help them. But the idea is to help them and to nourish a culture of life in our society. You look at the conduct of many brutal dictators around the world, the devaluation of life. It's part of what America should stand for in the world, is that we think life is precious. We actually protect it.
Well, it's so interesting that they're worried about waterboarding terrorists, but not protecting the unborn, who simply their only misfortune was to have someone get pregnant. And I sent you that quote from Mother Teresa. I don't know if you got a chance to. Any country that accepts abortion is not teaching its people to love one another, but to use any violence to get what they want. Well, look where we are these days. We don't get the verdict we want. We get violent and we burn down cities and neighborhoods. We don't get what we want with the police, and we go, and start shooting police. I think we've created a culture that has devalued life, and if you can't even protect the unborn, the innocent, truly innocent, and you think that it's just inconvenient, well, then that speaks volumes. Anyway, she actually believes, as she went on in other writings, that abortion is the greatest destroyer of love and peace, and that we will never have world peace when you don't even value the unborn.
I believe that too, and this is coming from a woman who, as I say, grew up in New York and spent a lot of time, my voting years, thinking that it was the liberal idea of just abortion on demand was really creating fairness for women. Another whole, and I have evolved on that as I've become just more appreciative of what culture means in a country. That culture, that word can seem vague, but it really has to do with, do we value life and understand that we set a standard for the next generation. We decide what kind of world our children will live in by the issues that we stand up for. And this thing on abortion that is so difficult is, I think a lot of people will say, well, gee, late-term abortion when the baby's arguably viable, certainly that's wrong. But then you say, okay, well, if the baby's not viable, but on what reason, why is that a logical line to draw? There just is no reason to say, well, if they are, 9 months pregnant, it's a perfectly reasonable stand to say you can't kill a viable baby. But, there is no logical line to draw except to get back to the notion that the beginning of life is when the baby's been conceived.
Yeah. Also, what's so wonderful to have a woman, if you're going to be, I don't believe Roe v. Wade will ever be overturned. But that said, so then we need, if I were the president, I would focus my energy on educating and making it that number one thing that I would hope you could teach the public, that it's not a good option. What good have you done women who now walk around with a lifetime of guilt? How is that freeing? And most women, and maybe some crack house mom, and maybe I saw some comedian who says she doesn't even care that she's had multiple abortions and thinks nothing of it. And I suppose there are some people that are that cold. But the vast majority of women that have had an abortion walk around with a lifetime of guilt. So how's that freeing them?
That is true. At a very related point, there are studies that talk about women who are in prison in America for whatever their crime was, but the percentage of women who are in prison who've had abortions is far higher than the national average. I've heard people say the national average of women, adult women who've had an abortion is 40%. That sounds kind of high to me, but I'm not in a position to question it. But the percentage of women who are in prison for whatever crime it is over 80% have had an abortion. So it affects your valuation of yourself, your identity, I have dear friends who've had an abortion who say, look, it was a crisis. I wish it hadn't happened, but I don't regret it. But you really don't know beneath the surface of the apparently successful life what it does to your heart, your soul, and so I think there's I'll say another great thing about the pro-life movement that I came to appreciate more in Texas. I think when abortion first came on the scene, there were a lot of the kind of televangelists and kind of more perhaps bombastic-sounding people denouncing abortion and denouncing the woman. And I think that it was a great turn in the pro-life movement to have people instead beginning talking on the pro-life side about we value women, we value your life. You do have a right to a good life ahead. We want to embrace you, support your child, help you through this. That turn, it really helps a lot, I think, in helping women to see that it's not men versus women, and it's not
Christians versus whatever, right?
Yeah, it's life versus death.
Yeah, that is what it's about. So that brings me to Donald Trump saying something bombastic without having thought it through, that he felt that there should be some sort of punishment for a woman who had an abortion. So Give me your reaction to him saying that. Now he's walked that back. I think the damage is done. I don't know if that's the straw that breaks Trump's back or not, and that's one of our polls, by the way, up at 790WAEB.com, our Valley-wide electorate poll. Are Donald Trump's comments on women and abortion the straw that will break his back? Again, vote at 790WAEB.com, but give me your reaction to what he said and your analysis. So does it break? Is that something that does him in?
You know, I've had the mistake over this campaign season of thinking that previous things he said were going to seriously damage his campaign, and it doesn't seem to happen. But I've looked at a couple of things on the abortion thing. I think that first what you saw in that interchange between Donald Trump and Chris Matthews was a really inexperienced candidate who didn't know not to answer hypothetical and was not ready to, and I don't mean that candidates should sound manipulated or that they should have tactics to deal with people, but you have to be able to recognize the media is not going to like anyone on the Republican side. They're going to try to make them look bad. And so I think it was just a really an example of someone who hadn't thought through the issue well, hadn't thought through, and then secondly, hadn't thought through how to answer things like that. But the short answer is, I think that even though it was a big gaffe for him, and I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, even though it's a big gaffe for him, and he's now had 4 versions in the last 5 days of his view on abortion. That was the first one. I think at the end of the day, given who's the candidate on the other side, that Hillary Clinton is going to be wildly unpopular among a lot of voters. So, I mean, I honestly don't think it's going to trip him up. I just don't.
What about tripping him up with Cruz?
That would be, in fact, Senator Cruz had, and I will say I'm a Texan, so I do really like Senator Cruz. He had the best response of all of the people who commented on it, which was similar to what I just said, which is essentially is a further demonstration of a candidate who has not thought through the issues. So I think that Senator Cruz should capitalize on that, because this abortion comment by Donald Trump was the latest in a series of things that make you wonder, how does he think about women? I love that Senator Cruz is surrounded by strong women. He proudly says that his wife is a fireball, smart and successful. And I think that, to play that because I think that really conservative women on the GOP side, they're going to go ahead, and if they like Donald Trump, it's not going to push them away. But if you're someone looking on the Republican side, you're going to think of Donald Trump as down on women, more so than Senator Cruz, who surrounds himself with strong women, who is and happily comfortable with them. I think Senator Cruz could capitalize on it. I think he's going to take Wisconsin tomorrow, and in part, if people are wavering, this makes people think, Donald Trump is just not ready for prime time.
Yeah, but to be clear, though, no matter who gets the Republican nod, they're going to be hated and vilified because they're pro-life. In fact, it's the only place where Kasich is with us, for example. He's not with us on Common Core. He's not with us on amnesty. He's not with us on global warming. He's not with us on other social issues. He was one of the first to enact Obamacare, but he is pro-life. And so no matter who gets the nod or somebody else, I'm assuming they'd be pro-life, and it's the Republican platform, they're going to be vilified. So Ted Cruz better be ready to defend it big time, because I think that's going to be, look, that's how Obama won the second term. He had the worst economy, things were horrible, and yet what he did was get people fired up on all the marginal issues, whether it's gay rights, abortion rights. He got all those groups wound up and ginned up, and that may be the very same thing that Hillary has to do, so you better be prepared. I was going to get to you next, and you like Cruz? Because, boy, I got to tell you, the one thing I've noticed in this campaign, unlike any previous campaigns that I can remember, some say the Reagan stuff was contentious and the establishment hated him, and I don't remember it that way, but maybe it was. It's too long ago. But I've never seen a campaign where the people inside the Republican Party are also, you talk about polarized left-right, we are polarized on the right within the party. And I see the stuff that people that are pro-Trump send about Cruz. I've actually got an email this morning trying to prove he's a communist. No, I know, it's insane. And then the emails you get about both people, I've never seen anything like it. They're burning. If your guy doesn't win and the other guy does, you have successfully burned the other guy to the ground and made Hillary's job a lot easier. And Glenn Beck is cheerleading Cruz. Rush and Hannity are neutral, and I think that that's the position to take because you don't know who's going to get the party's nod, and if you burn the other guy to the ground and he's the nominee, you've just now what do you do?
I couldn't agree more. I find this the most polarized within the GOP primary that I can recall in my lifetime, and I see comments on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, by the Cruz supporters, just never Trump, never will vote for him. Same thing with Trump supporters, never Cruz, will not vote him. And the absurd allegations that you mentioned, I haven't seen the one that's saying that Cruz is a communist, but there are just any way to undermine the other guy, and you see articles all the time with a headline that says something that sounds like, oh my gosh, that happened, or he said that?
Yeah.
And then you read the article and nothing like that was said. So I think that I do appreciate that Rush Limbaugh keeps saying, keep your eye on the goal is to defeat Hillary Clinton in the fall. And it really is the goal. And I think you were a moment ago in Donald Trump's remarks on abortion. Hillary Clinton already has an ad out. It was like 2 days after his comment, already had an ad out. So all of this maliciousness that is, and in my perception of it, it's far more coming from Donald Trump's campaign than it is from Senator Cruz's. I mean, I think that Donald Trump personally as the candidate has been just almost, I can't even think of a harsh enough word, not just bombastic, but looking for a way to belittle and malign and just make look absurd. He did it the way he spoke about Governor Walker, about how he spoke about Marco Rubio, little Marco. It has been the most petulant, childish campaign by an actual person who wants to be president. This is a 69-year-old guy who sits up at night texting at 3 in the morning about Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
It has been very petty, and it will hurt us. We have to unite. Our GOP does behind whoever wins the nomination, and I think the pettiness got to end.
And you would unite behind Trump if it's him?
Oh, yes, I will. I do not care for his conduct, his demeanor. I honestly feel mostly concerned because I don't have any sense of his moral compass or his internal compass. To me, it seems like Donald Trump is mostly touting Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But I will say, if he wins it, yes, you have to, because Hillary will be 4 more years of Obama, and we can't afford that.
And talking to Debbie Georgatos, and she's a political strategist, author, has her own radio show, and her website is ladiescanwetalk.org, ladiescanwetalk.org. The book is also Ladies Can We Talk. That book is out right now, by the way, Debbie?
Yes, it's available on Amazon.
Amazon.com. And that's part of what it is Can We Talk? How are we ever going to convince people to come to our side if we don't have conversations? And by the way, if people are perceiving Republicans by the way they perceive Donald Trump, gosh, it'd be surprising if they even want to have a conversation with you, because if he, we're absurd. We look like an absurd party that's over the top by Trump's behavior, and by even quite honestly, by the others taking the bait and getting down in the mud with them. I feel like they totally, for somebody, should have ignored him. The one guy that's doing that, for the most part, is Kasich, but he is so liberal, it's not even funny. So, do you think this?
He's also not getting attacked very much by Donald Trump. It's a funny thing in this. I don't know how much time we have, but I don't know. On this defending yourself, there's a line to be drawn when you are personally attacked. As a candidate, you sometimes can just, if it's just so silly, you can ignore it. But you have to speak up and assert things in a positive way, not get down in the mud. But you can't ignore some attacks because you look like you're agreeing that you deserve the attack.
I hear you, and I understand. I think the Heidi Cruz was something that Ted had to defend. But I think there was a time he made his point and he could have let up, and it just went on. And now he finally said he's not going to pay attention, which I think is the right strategy. I think he should just ignore him. Do you think we end up at a contested convention and or a brokered convention?
Absolutely. I think that even if there are a lot of pundits saying by April 26th in the GOP side there will be no path to the 1,237 delegates for Ted Cruz, I wouldn't concede that, but even if that were true, it doesn't mean that Donald Trump can get to 1,237. And, on this whole issue about what people should do, what the delegates should do at the convention, the real goal of the delegates is to be sure that at the end of the day, the GOP wins the race in the fall. It is They certainly have to be. They have different rules in different states and have to be loyal to whoever it is they are supposed to be a delegate for. But at the end of the day, they need to be looking at, if no one wins on the first ballot at the GOP convention, if neither Trump or Cruz gets enough votes, then I think that the goal and the job of the delegates is to calculate, what's our best path to success. I think they can. I do think they can take into account things like what's the trajectory, who's moving up in the polls, who's likely to be able to beat Hillary or not, and I think all those are valid. But this notion that we would have an outside, someone who did not run at all, and then the GOP swoops in and puts in their person, I think that would be a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the end. I don't see myself voting for that person then, because I would just resent the party. And we have a Donald Trump because the party has ignored us. We've been screaming at them since Obamacare, even before, when we were in shock at the way he pulled it off, then in shock at the way the court ruled. We give them the House and get the Senate close in 2010. 2014, we give it to them big time, and nothing's changed, and the people are frustrated. And now they're going to ignore us again by pulling that stunt. That would be a death knell. What I hear Debbie saying about Trump and the way he's going after the other candidates, but he never went after anybody till they went after him first. Well, first of all, that's not true, because he went after Ben Carson, and Carson never went after him. He goes after anybody that's close to beating him. So your premise is incorrect. That's number one. Sometimes they have gone after him. But some of them have first, but it was on policy. Then he comes back and gets personal. So it's not that he shouldn't go back after them. It's the childishness of it. Correct?
Yeah. Yes, I think both things are true. The National Enquirer, back in the time when Ben Carson was beginning to have poll numbers touching Donald Trump. In fact, for some time he was a bit ahead of Donald Trump. The National Enquirer, run by Donald Trump's good friend, ran a story with a horrible picture claiming that Ben Carson had been had performed botched surgeries and ruined people's lives. He is and you're drawing both are great points. That first, yes, he goes after people if they get close to him in polling or in popularity. And I think there is really a need, though, to make that line between, is this a personal attack on what your wife looks like, or is this a serious policy difference? Because it is important for today, for Ted Cruz, to continue to point out either the vagueness of the kinds of things that Donald Trump says. I think it's perfectly fertile and good ground for Ted Cruz to talk about the 4 different positions that Donald Trump has taken on abortion in the last 5 days. I think on policy, on substance, you absolutely have to. But the personal pettiness stuff turns everyone off.
Yep. All right. It does. So, well, I want to get to you, stay in touch with you. Political strategist, author of Ladies Can We Talk. Also, her website is ladiescanwetalk.org, and her radio show is Ladies Can We Talk. So, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me, Bob. Have a good day.
You too.